The Aurora Nexus hummed, with the quiet efficiency of a station designed to never sleep. Hundreds of light-speed signals constantly bombarded its receivers, each categorized, prioritized, and routed by a network of supercomputers and specialized technicians from dozens of species across the Taukach galaxy. Among the 60 advanced civilizations that made up the Interplanetary Council communication was everything. Peace through understanding was their motto. Vigilance through constant connection was their method. Lieutenant Iris Cade stifled a yawn as she monitored her section of the data stream. Her first rotation, as Earth's new observer at the Nexus, was proving far less exciting than she had anticipated. 6 hours into her late-night shift, and the most interesting communication had been a minor trade dispute between two Outer Rim mining colonies. Not exactly the grand introduction to galactic politics she had imagined when accepting this prestigious assignment. "You look bored, human," came a chittering voice from behind her. Cade turned to see the elongated frame of Chief Technician Vorn Axe gliding toward her station. The Vaxian's translucent exoskeleton shimmered under the soft blue lighting of the command center. 6 delicate appendages, adjusting various controls on the central console with effortless coordination. "Is it that obvious?" Cade asked, straightening her posture. "Your species has a remarkable inability to hide emotional states." Vorn replied mandibles, clicking in what Cade had learned was the Vaxian equivalent of a smirk. "But do not be discouraged. Quiet shifts are good shifts. The logistical vessel, Serenity, is docked for the night, and I suggest we enjoy the peace while it lasts." Cade nodded, but her attention had already shifted back to her display. A peculiar sequence of data packets had emerged in her sector, repeating at intervals she couldn't quite place. "Vorn, take a look at this frequency pattern. Does it match any known species protocols?" The Vaxian's compound eyes narrowed as he leaned over her shoulder, his sensory antennae quivering with interest. "Unusual. The encryption method suggests a variation of lingua root, but the carrier wave." He paused, manipulating the display to enhance the signal. "This definitely doesn't correspond to any council member's communication signature." "Could it be a glitch in the system?" Cade asked, already running a diagnostic routine. "Unlikely. The pattern is too deliberate too." Vorn stopped mid-sentence as the signal's intensity suddenly spiked, overriding the standard protocol filters. The frequency modulation shifted, and a clear message began repeating across their primary display. "It's an SOS," Cade whispered, her training immediately kicking in as she began the emergency response protocols. "Origin." Vorn's appendages flew across the station's astronomical database. "Planet Eurelis' third orbital body of the Lyran system. Non-council world, though they've established preliminary contact with the diplomatic corps approximately 15 solar cycles ago." The message clarified as their translation algorithms caught up with the signal's ancient lingua root structure. "To any receiving civilization, this is Ambassador Mira L. of Eurelis. We are under attack by the Zern Collective. Our defensive systems are failing. Planetary core destabilization imminent. Estimated survival window 25 days. Please respond. This is our final hope." Cade's eyes widened. "Core destabilization. What kind of weapon can affect a planet's core?" "The Zern are known for their gravitational manipulation technology," Vorn replied grimly. "They're an expansionist species from the outer reaches not officially documented in council records, but rumors of their aggression have reached us. They view other sentient species as potential resources, not equals." "We need to alert the council immediately," Cade said, already establishing a priority channel to the headquarters. Within hours, the council chamber had convened an emergency session. Representatives from all 60 member species participated either in person or via holographic projection. Cade and Vorn stood at the periphery, having delivered their report on the signal's authenticity and origin. The council chair, an ancient Malurian with silvery scales and piercing eyes, addressed the assembly. "We have verified the distress call from Eurelis. The question before this body is simple. What, if anything, is our responsibility in this matter?" The debate erupted almost immediately. The Hraxus ambassador, a gelatinous being suspended in a levitation field, spoke first. Euralis has no formal treaties with the Council. They have not completed the observation period paid membership dues, or ratified any mutual defense pacts. By statute, we have no obligation to provide emergency assistance. This is not about statutory obligations, countered the Tellurian representative, her crystalline form refracting light as she gestured emphatically. This is about moral imperative. A sentient civilization faces extinction. And what precedent would intervention set? Demanded a Vorshan diplomat, his metallic voice resonating through the chamber. Every non-member world would expect military assistance at the first sign of trouble. Our resources are finite, our mandate clear. Cade watched in growing disbelief as the debate continued, hour after hour, with no resolution in sight. Bureaucratic procedures were cited, risk assessments, demanded committees suggested to evaluate the authenticity of the threat and the strategic implications of involvement. No one seemed to grasp or care that real lives hung in the balance, that every moment of deliberation brought the Euralis closer to extinction. As the session adjourned with only a promise to convene an evaluation committee within standard protocol timeframes, Cade felt a cold resolution settle in her chest. She glanced at Vorn, who had remained silent throughout the proceedings, his compound eyes unreadable. "Is this how the Council always operates?" she asked quietly as they exited the chamber. "Efficiency is not always compatible with unanimity," Vorn replied, his voice unusually subdued. 60 species means 60 perspectives, 60 sets of priorities, 60 definitions of emergency. Cade nodded, her decision already made. "I need to make a secure transmission to Earth. Can you help me bypass the standard recording protocols?" Vorn's antenna quivered with alarm. "That would violate at least 7 Council regulations. As an observer, your communications are subject to—" "People are dying, Vorn," Cade interrupted. 25 days before an entire civilization is wiped out. Will your regulations save them?" The Vaxian was silent for a long moment, his exoskeleton shifting colors slightly, a sign of internal conflict that Cade had learned to recognize during her xenobiology training. Finally, he spoke. "There is a maintenance tunnel beneath the Eastern Communication Array. The shielding interferes with standard monitoring. You would have approximately 3 minutes before the system registers the anomaly." "Thank you," Cade said, already moving toward the exit. Lieutenant Vorn called after her. "Whatever you're planning, be careful. The Council's bureaucracy may be frustrating, but it exists for a reason. Unilateral action has consequences." Cade paused at the doorway. "So does inaction, Chief Technician. Sometimes the bigger risk is doing nothing at all." 3 hours later, President Helene Wu of Earth sat alone in her office, staring at the encrypted message from Lieutenant Cade. The evidence was clear, the moral calculus straightforward. What wasn't simple was the political reality, as the newest member of the Interplanetary Council's observer program, Earth, was under intense scrutiny. Any perceived violation of protocol could result in their immediate expulsion, setting back decades of diplomatic progress. Yet as Wu read the transcript of the Euralis distress call a second time, she found her resolve hardening. Humans had fought too hard, sacrificed too much to earn their place among the stars, to now abandon the very principles that defined them. If the cost of Council membership was watching an innocent civilization die when they had the power to help, perhaps that price was too high. She activated her secure communication panel. "Assemble the Planetary Security Council immediately, and contact Fleet Admiral Jackson. Tell him Operation Lifeline is a go." Across the solar system and beyond, humanity's response began to take shape. From orbital shipyards around Mars to the military bases on Ganymede, from the Saturn ring mining operations to the distant colonies of Proxima Centauri ships, were prepped crews, mobilized supplies loaded. The Earth Defense Fleet, 250 vessels, strong, prepared for immediate deployment. At the Aurora Nexus, Cade was preparing to end her shift when Vorn approached her station, his movements betraying unusual agitation. The communication arrays are buzzing with encrypted Earth traffic, he said quietly. Fleet movements, resource allocations, deployment orders. Your people are mobilizing. Cade maintained a carefully neutral expression. I wouldn't know anything about that. Don't play ignorant, Lieutenant. The timing is too convenient. Vorn glanced around to ensure they weren't overheard. Whatever Earth is planning, the Council will interpret it as a violation of your observer status. The consequences could be severe. I appreciate your concern, Cade replied, but my duty shift is over. If you'll excuse me. I want to help. The words stopped Cade in her tracks. What? The Israeli signal, Vorn explained. There are embedded data packets. Your analysts might miss technical specifications of the Zern weaponry shield frequencies, tactical approaches. I'm the foremost signal decryption specialist at the Nexus. I can extract that information, potentially save lives, both Uralis and human. Cade studied the Vaxian carefully. Why would you risk your position? Your own people support the Council's decision to wait. My position is Chief Technician. My job is to ensure communications reach those who need them. Vorn's mandibles clicked in agitation. The Israelis need help. Your people are offering it. I am simply fulfilling my function. A slow smile spread across Cade's face. In that case, Chief Technician, I believe, I'm authorized to grant you temporary consultant status for Earth's observer mission. Shall we discuss the details somewhere more private? 24 hours later, the logistics vessel Serenity detached from Aurora Nexus, ostensibly for a scheduled supply run. If anyone noted that Lieutenant Cade and Chief Technician Vorn were aboard, or that the ship's course would take it suspiciously close to the rally point for Earth's emerging fleet, no official queries were raised. Aboard the Serenity, Cade stood at the viewport, watching as ship after ship emerged from hyperspace jump points, assembling into the most impressive display of human military might she had ever witnessed. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, support vessels, each bearing the insignia of Earth and its colonies, many displaying additional unit emblems with mottos like, "For the helpless," and "We never leave behind." Your species certainly doesn't lack for dramatic presentation, Vorn observed, joining her at the viewport. 250 ships for a rescue mission. The logistical coordination alone is remarkable. Humanity has a long history of responding to distress calls, Cade replied. It's embedded in our maritime traditions, our emergency services, our cultural DNA. No one left behind isn't just a slogan, it's a promise. A costly promise by any metric. Vorn's antennae twitched as he studied the fleet. The Zern are not to be underestimated. Their shield technology is generations beyond most Council races, and their plasma cannons can cut through standard armor plating like tissue. Which is why your signal analysis is so crucial, Cade said. Have you made progress with the Israelis' technical data? Indeed. Vorn activated a holographic display from his personal device. The Israelis included detailed scans of Zern vessel configurations in their distress signal, clever hiding of vital intelligence, in case someone answered their call. The Zern utilize a triphasic shield modulation that makes them nearly impervious to conventional weapons fire. However, he manipulated the display to zoom in on a particular frequency pattern. There's a vulnerability in their shield harmonics. A precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulse could temporarily disrupt their entire defensive grid. How temporarily? Perhaps 30 seconds at most, but in space combat, 30 seconds is an eternity. Cade finished her mind, already racing with tactical possibilities. We need to get this information to Fleet Command immediately. As the Serenity docked with the flagship Earth Defender, Cade and Vorn were escorted directly to the command center. Admiral Jackson, a weathered veteran with more battle scars than hair, studied the Vaxian with poorly concealed suspicion. Lieutenant Cade vouches for you, Chief Technician, he said gruffly. That buys you enough trust to be in this room. Whether your information is worth risking my fleet for remains to be seen. Vorn conducted himself with dignity, methodically presenting his analysis of the Zern vulnerabilities, answering the Admiral's increasingly technical questions with patience and precision. By the time he finished, even Jackson's skepticism had given way to grudging respect. "If your calculations are correct," the Admiral said, "we have a fighting chance. But creating a pulse weapon of sufficient strength to affect an entire Zern battle group within the time frame we have?" "I believe I can help with that as well," Vorn replied. "With access to your engineering resources, I can adapt Vaxian resonance technology to amplify the effect. What you would call a pulse bomb." Jackson exchanged glances with Cade before nodding decisively. "Make it happen. We jump to Uranus in 18 hours. The preparation was intense, a frenzy of activity. As battle plans were formulated, ships were positioned, and Vorn worked tirelessly with the engineering teams to create a weapon that existed only in theory hours before. Through it all, Cade found herself serving as a bridge between worlds, translating human tactical philosophies for Vorn and Vaxian technical concepts for the engineers. In quieter moments, she and Vorn found themselves discussing more than just the mission at hand. Cultural differences, philosophical outlooks, personal histories, all flowed in the strange intimacy created by shared purpose and looming danger. "Your people call themselves Deathworlders," Vorn noted during one such conversation. "An unusual point of pride." Cade smiled. "Earth shaped us high-gravity, extreme weather patterns, diverse predators. When we reached the stars, we discovered we'd evolved on one of the most hostile, habitable planets in known space. What other species saw as brutal conditions we called home. And now the Deathworlders rush to save a species you've never even met," Vorn mused. "Perhaps there is some correlation between evolutionary hardship and empathy. Or maybe we just know what it's like to fight against the odds," Cade replied. "No one should have to face extinction alone." The conversation might have continued, but alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "All hands to battle stations," came Admiral Jackson's voice over the intercom. "Preparing for hyperspace jump to a Uranus system in T-minus 15 minutes. This is not a drill." Cade and Vorn exchanged one final look before hurrying to their assigned positions. Whatever happened next would either be a new chapter in human galactic relations or the last entry in their personal logs. The jump to Uranus was perfectly coordinated. 250 ships emerging simultaneously from hyperspace in a blind spot of the Zern sensor grid. The sight that greeted them was grim. Nearly 200 Zern vessels surrounding the crystalline planet, methodical plasma fire breaking through the last layers of planetary defenses. Orbital cities already lay in ruins, their broken structures drifting in space like discarded toys. "Tactical assessment," Admiral Jackson demanded, standing rigid at the command center. "Zern forces outnumber us, but they're concentrated on breaking through the final planetary shields," his executive officer reported. "They haven't detected our arrival yet. The element of surprise is ours, for perhaps 2 minutes before their sensor sweep cycles. Then we make those minutes count." Jackson turned to Vorn. "Is your pulse bomb ready, Chief Technician?" The Vaxian's exoskeleton had paled almost to transparency, a sign of stress Cade had learned, but his voice remained steady. "Calibrated and primed, Admiral. But we'll need to be closer to maximize effect. The targeting vessel must approach to within 5,000 kilometers of the main Zern battle group. Which means flying directly into their defensive perimeter," Cade added, studying the tactical display. "Suicidal under normal circumstances." "These aren't normal circumstances." Jackson's eyes narrowed as he considered the options. "We need a fast ship minimal profile capable of evading detection, long enough to deploy the weapon and escape the blast radius." All eyes turned to the Serenity displayed on the tactical screen. "A logistics vessel?" Cade asked incredulously. "It's not built for combat maneuvers." "Which is precisely why the Zern won't pay it much attention," Jackson replied. "And it has the most advanced stealth plating in the fleet, designed to protect supply lines. Lieutenant, I'm not ordering you." "I'll do it," Cade said firmly. "The Serenity is my assigned vessel, and I know its capabilities better than anyone here." "I will accompany the lieutenant," Vorn added. "The pulse bomb requires final calibration based on proximity readings of the Zern shields. Only I can perform those adjustments in real time. Jackson nodded grimly. The fleet will position for maximum effect once the Zern shields drop. You'll have a 30-second window after the pulse deploys. Make it count. As they prepared to return to the Serenity, Cade caught Vorn adjusting some device attached to his exoskeleton. "What is that?" she asked. "A personal shield," he replied, not meeting her eyes. "Standard Vaxian precaution." Cade sensed there was more to it, but there was no time for further questions. Within minutes, they were aboard the Serenity, accelerating toward the Zern battle group, while the human fleet held position at the edge of the system, weapons charged and ready. The approach was tense. The Serenity's stealth systems pushed to their limits as they navigated the increasingly dense field of Zern vessels. From this close, the enemy ships were even more intimidating, massive constructs of dark metal, with pulsing energy matrices visible beneath translucent sections of hull. "We're approaching optimal deployment range," Vorn announced, monitoring the pulse bomb's readouts. "The Zern shields are at full power, focused primarily on repelling Euralis's defensive fire. A perfect configuration for our purposes." Cade guided the ship with precision, born of countless simulator hours, threading between enemy vessels, with a combination of skill and calculated risk. "Setting final approach vector. How much longer until we're in position?" 2 minutes, 17 seconds, Vorn replied. "However, I'm detecting anomalous energy readings from the planet's surface. The Euralis are attempting some kind of last-ditch defense measure. It's creating interference patterns that could affect our pulse calibration." "Can you compensate?" "Working on it." Vorn's appendages moved with blur-like speed across his equipment. "I need direct communication with whoever is coordinating the Eurali's defense." Cade activated the ship's communication array. "This is Lieutenant Iris Cade of Earth aboard vessel Serenity. We're here to help, but need immediate contact with Euralis Defense Command." For several agonizing seconds, there was no response. Then, a weak signal broke through. "This is Ambassador Mira L. Our Defense Command Center was destroyed hours ago. I'm coordinating from our last communication hub. Who are you? How did you receive our signal?" "The Aurora Nexus intercepted your SOS," Cade explained rapidly. "We've brought a fleet to assist, but need you to temporarily cease your defensive measures. They're interfering with our counterweapon." "Cease our defenses?" The ambassador's voice was incredulous. "The moment we do, the Zern will break through to our core." "Trust me," Cade urged. 30 seconds is all we need. Your defenses won't matter if our plan works." There was a painful pause before the ambassador responded. "Very well. May the celestial harmony guide your efforts. Defenses powering down now." "Energy interference clearing," Vorn reported. "Pulse bomb achieving optimal calibration. We are now within deployment range." "All human vessels, this is Serenity." Cade broadcast to the fleet. "Prepare for shield disruption in T-10 seconds. Weapons free on my mark." "Wait," Vorn interjected suddenly. "We have a problem. The bomb's delivery mechanism is malfunctioning. The deployment drones can't release." "Manual override." "Impossible from here. Someone would need to physically release the bomb from the cargo bay." Vorn's compound eyes met Cade's. "I'll go." "Absolutely not," Cade objected. "I'll set the ship to autopilot and we'll both—" "There is no time for debate, Lieutenant." Vorn's voice was firm. "The pulse calibration requires constant adjustment, right until detonation. I'm the only one who can do it. Besides," he tapped the device on his exoskeleton, "I have protection." Before Cade could protest further, Vorn was moving toward the cargo bay. "Maintain our position," he called back, "and be ready to execute emergency jump procedures the moment the pulse deploys." Cade watched him go, a sick feeling in her stomach. Something wasn't right about the situation, but with the Zern sensors now beginning to register their presence, warning alarms blaring through the ship, there was no time to analyze her suspicions. In the cargo bay, Vorn worked with methodical precision, making final adjustments to the pulse bomb, while manually overriding the deployment mechanism. His personal communicator remained linked to the bridge, allowing Cade to hear his progress. Calibration complete. Manual release engaging in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. A shudder ran through the Serenity as the pulse bomb detached. Through the view screen, Cade watched the small device drift toward the center of the Zern formation. "Detonation in 10 seconds, Vorn announced. "Prepare for immediate withdrawal, Lieutenant." "Get back to the bridge now," Cade ordered. "Emergency jump coordinates locked in." "I'm afraid that won't be possible." Vorn's voice had taken on a strange calm. "The bomb requires a precise detonation trigger. The signal can't penetrate the Zern interference field from the ship." "What are you saying?" Cade demanded, ice forming in her veins. "My personal shield is actually an amplification matrix," Vorn explained. "It will ensure the detonation signal reaches the bomb, a necessary precaution I neglected to mention earlier." "Vorn, don't—" 5 seconds to detonation. The Zern have detected the bomb. Their weapons are locking on. Abort, we'll find another way. 3 seconds. Remember, Lieutenant, 30 seconds once their shields drop. Make them count. Vorn. It has been an honor serving with Deathworlders. A pause. Detonating now. A blinding flash of blue-white energy erupted at the heart of the Zern fleet, expanding outward in concentric rings that passed through ships and space alike. For a moment, everything seemed frozen, suspended in the impossible brightness. Then the light faded, revealing the Zern fleet intact, but with their signature energy shields completely offline, the pulsing matrices that had glowed beneath their hulls, now dark and dormant. Cade's training took over grief, temporarily suppressed by the demands of duty. "All Earth vessels. This is Serenity Zern. Shields down, weapons free. I repeat, weapons free." The human fleet surged forward like a tidal wave, ships accelerating to attack speed in perfect formation. Missiles, laser batteries, and kinetic projectiles slammed into the suddenly vulnerable Zern vessels, tearing through unprotected hulls with devastating efficiency. Caught completely by surprise, the Zern attempted to regroup, but their tactical advantage had evaporated with their shields. The human fleet executed a series of maneuvers that separated the Zern formation, isolating vessels, and targeting their propulsion systems with surgical precision. Aboard the Serenity, Cade pushed aside her personal feelings to focus on the mission. Angling her ship toward the Irayli's communication hub, where Ambassador Mira L. was coordinating the planet's remaining defenses, she opened a direct channel. "Ambassador, this is Lieutenant Cade. I'm approaching your position to extract you and any remaining personnel. The Zern shields are down, but not for long. We need to move quickly." "Understood, Lieutenant," came the reply. "We're preparing for evacuation, but you should know the Zern attacks have already triggered our core destabilization sequence. Even with their retreat, Euryalus is doomed within days." "All the more reason to get your people to safety," Cade responded, maneuvering the Serenity through the debris of destroyed Zern ships. "How many survivors at your location?" 17, including myself. But our life support is failing. We have perhaps 20 minutes of breathable atmosphere remaining." "I'll be there in 10, Cade promised, pushing the Serenity's engines beyond recommended parameters. The approach to the communication hub was treacherous. Though the human fleet was winning the battle, scattered Zern vessels were making desperate suicidal attacks against anything moving near the planet. Twice, Cade had to execute emergency evasive maneuvers as plasma beams cut through space, where the Serenity had been moments before. Finally reaching the hub, a crystalline structure now cracked and dimmed from multiple impacts, Cade extended the Serenity's docking tube. "Ambassador, I've arrived. Begin evacuation immediately." The Euryalys moved with urgency, but discipline, filing aboard the Serenity in an orderly progression despite their obvious fear and exhaustion. They were tall, willowy beings with translucent skin that reflected light in rainbow patterns now dulled by stress and injury. Ambassador Mira L. came last, pausing at the airlock to look back at her dying world. "Generations of history art knowledge," she murmured, her melodic voice heavy with grief. "All to be lost because we refused the Zern's demands for our crystal resources." Not all will be lost, Cade said gently. Your people will survive to rebuild. Knowledge can be preserved. Worlds can be found. It's life that's irreplaceable. A violent impact rocked the Serenity before the ambassador could respond. Direct hit to our port stabilizers, the ship's computer announced. Structural integrity compromised. Docking tube destabilizing. Cade saw the problem immediately. The connection between the ship and the hub was failing, with the ambassador caught halfway between. Without thinking, she launched herself into the tube, grabbing Mira L's arm, just as the connection began to tear apart. "Hold on!" she shouted, bracing herself against the airlock frame with her legs, while pulling the ambassador toward safety. Another hit struck the Serenity, sending shudders through the entire vessel. The docking tube tore free, completely explosive decompression beginning at its far end and racing toward them. With a final desperate heave, Cade pulled the ambassador inside the airlock and slammed the emergency closure button. The doors sealed a split second before the vacuum reached them. "Damage report," Cade demanded, helping the shaken ambassador to her feet. "Multiple hull breaches," the computer responded. "Life support compromised in sectors 3 through 5. FTL drive offline. Conventional engines at 40% capacity." Cade accessed the tactical display, assessing their position. The battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor, with the remaining Zern vessels now in full retreat. But the victory had come at a steep cost. Dozens of human ships destroyed or crippled their wreckage, creating a grim orbital ring around Euralis. "Serenity to Earth Defender," Cade transmitted. "We have the Urali survivors aboard, but we're severely damaged. Request immediate extraction." "Copy that, Serenity," came Admiral Jackson's voice. "Sending escorts your way. Be advised, we're detecting Zern reinforcements entering the system. All vessels prepare for defensive formation. We need to get our damaged ships and the Urali's evacuees clear before they arrive." The retreat was as precisely coordinated as the attack had been. Damaged vessels paired with intact ones, the fleet arranging itself in concentric protective layers around the ships carrying Euralis refugees. As the first wave of Zern reinforcements appeared at the system's edge, the human fleet was already accelerating toward their hyperspace jump points. But the Zern were determined not to let their prey escape. Faster attack craft surged ahead of their main force, targeting the vulnerable evacuation ships with relentless focus. The human fleet's rearguard turned to engage, buying time with their lives. "We're not going to make it," Cade realized watching the tactical display as the Zern closed the distance. The Serenity's damaged engines couldn't accelerate fast enough to reach the jump point before being overtaken. "Admiral Jackson, this is Serenity," she transmitted. "We can't outrun them. Request you continue evacuation while we provide diversion." "Negative, Serenity." Jackson replied immediately. "No one gets left behind. Cruiser Squadron 6 form on Serenity. Destroyers 9 through 14 attack pattern Delta. Create a corridor for our wounded." Before Cade's eyes, the tactical display transformed as human ships broke formation, deliberately placing themselves between the pursuing Zern and the vulnerable Serenity. A wall of firepower erupted, momentarily halting the Zern advance. "Lieutenant." Ambassador Mira L approached the bridge, her crystalline features solemn. "Your people are sacrificing themselves for mine. Why?" Cade watched as more human ships were hit, some disintegrating under concentrated Zern fire. "Because that's what we do," she answered simply. "That's who we are." The defensive corridor held just long enough. As the Serenity finally limped across the hyperspace threshold, Cade took one last look at the tactical display. 80 human vessels would not be returning from Euralis, 80 crews who had given everything so strangers might live. And somewhere among the debris orbiting that doomed crystalline world was Vorn Elax, who had made the first sacrifice of all. The journey back to Earth space took 3 days, with the fleet traveling at reduced speed to accommodate damaged vessels. Throughout the voyage, medical teams worked tirelessly to treat injured humans and Euralis alike. Though their physiologies differed dramatically, the fundamental principles of trauma care proved surprisingly universal. Leading the medical effort was Dr. Maria Singh, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, working in concert with Dr. Elney, the Urala's chief medical practitioner. Together, they developed emergency protocols that saved dozens of lives that might otherwise have been lost to incompatible treatment methods. Your cellular regeneration capabilities are remarkable. Dr. Elney observed studying human tissue samples under a molecular scanner. The rate at which you heal from physical trauma explains much about your species' resilience. Yet your people's crystalline nervous system allows for pain modulation we can only dream of, Dr. Singh replied. Perhaps there's a synthesis possible treatments that could benefit both our species. Despite such moments of cooperation and discovery, a somber mood pervaded the fleet. Victory had come at a tremendous cost, and the political ramifications remained unknown. No one doubted that the Council would view Earth's unilateral military action as a severe breach of protocol, possibly grounds for expulsion from even observer status. Cade spent much of the journey in solitude, wrestling with her own complex emotions. Grief for Vorn and the others lost in battle. Pride in humanity's response to the crisis. Uncertainty about her own future. She had, after all, been the one to send the initial message that triggered Earth's intervention. It was Ambassador Mira L. who finally drew her out of isolation, seeking her out in the Serenity's observation lounge, where Cade sat staring at the hyperspace distortion field. Your ship's designated healer, Dr. Singh, tells me you have been refusing regeneration treatments for your injuries, the ambassador said, settling gracefully into the seat beside her. Cade glanced down at her bandaged arm, burned during the airlock rescue. Others need the medical resources more than I do. Perhaps. But your people need you at full strength. Mira L's crystalline features caught the light as she turned to study Cade more closely. You carry a burden of guilt that does not belong to you, Lieutenant. I sent the message that started all this, Cade replied. I'm responsible for every life lost. No. The ambassador's voice was firm. I sent the message that started this, the distress call that your Vorn Elax helped decode. If responsibility must be assigned, let it fall on those who made the choices, the Zern who attacked a peaceful world, the Council who chose inaction, and the brave souls who chose to help strangers despite the cost. Cade remained silent, unconvinced. In our culture, Mira L. continued, we believe that actions create resonance patterns that echo through the universe. Your friend Vorn understood this. His sacrifice created a wave that saved thousands of my people. Would you diminish that choice by claiming it as your burden rather than his triumph? The ambassador's words penetrated Cade's grief in a way nothing else had. I never even got to say goodbye, she admitted quietly. There was no time. Then honor him by ensuring his sacrifice continues to resonate, Mira L. replied. The story of Uralis and Earth is only beginning, Lieutenant. Much remains to be written. When the fleet finally reached Earth space 3 days later, they were met not with censure, but celebration. News of the mission had spread throughout human colonies, and relief ships had been dispatched to meet the returning fleet, bringing supplies, medical teams, and thousands of messages of support. Most surprising of all was the delegation waiting at Earth's orbital station, representatives from 7 Council species, who had broken ranks with the official position of non-intervention. The Tellurians, the Meroxi, even a small contingent of Vaxians, stood ready to welcome the survivors and offer assistance to the Urali's refugees. The Council majority still condemns Earth's actions, the Tellurian representative explained to President Wu during the formal reception. But not all of us are bound by procedural paralysis. What you call Deathworlders, we are beginning to see as life-bringers. In the weeks that followed, temporary settlements were established for the Urali's survivors across Earth and its colonies. Cultural exchange programs flourished with humans eager to learn about crystalline art forms and resonance technologies, while the Uralis showed equal fascination with Earth's diverse ecosystems and resilient communities. 1 month after the rescue, a formal ceremony was held in New Geneva, Earth's diplomatic capital. The crystalline architecture of the ceremonial hall had been specially designed to evoke the lost beauty of Euryales, with light refracting through transparent surfaces in patterns that brought tears to the eyes of the refugees. Ambassador Mira, now the designated leader of the Euryales diaspora, addressed the assembly. Today, we gather to honor those who answered a call that many ignored. When faced with the extinction of strangers, the people of Earth did not ask if helping us was profitable or politically expedient or without risk. They asked only if it was right. The ambassador raised a crystalline construct that pulsed with internal light. This is the heart of remembrance, containing the genetic and memory patterns of our lost world. Within it are also inscribed the names of every human and Vaxian who gave their lives that we might live. They are now eternally recorded as eternal friends of Euryales, the highest honor our culture bestows. One by one, the names were projected above the assembly, each accompanied by a unique tone that resonated through the hall. When Vorn Elax's name appeared, Cade, seated in the front row, in her formal uniform, felt a wave of emotion that threatened to overwhelm her carefully maintained composure. After the ceremony, President Wu approached Cade privately. "The Council has summoned Earth's delegation to an extraordinary session," she informed her. "They're deliberating on our observer status after what they're calling our unauthorized military action." "I understand, Madam President," Cade replied mentally, preparing herself for disciplinary measures. "I take full responsibility for my role in initiating the response." Wu smiled. "That's precisely why I want you to lead our delegation to the hearing, Lieutenant. Or should I say, Captain Cade?" "Captain," Cade repeated, stunned. "Battlefield promotion effective immediately," Wu confirmed. "And there's more. 7 Council species have petitioned for Earth to receive full membership status, bypassing the remainder of the observation period. They argue that our actions at Euryales demonstrated the kind of moral leadership the Council was founded to embody." "And the other 53 species?" "Many are undecided. Some remain firmly opposed." Wu's expression hardened. "But I want the Council to hear directly from the officer who made the first call, who saw injustice and refused to look away. Tell them about Vorn Elax, about cooperation across species lines, about the price paid and the lives saved. Make them understand what being a Deathworlder truly means." The council chamber fell silent as Cade concluded her testimony. For hours, she had recounted every detail of the Euryales rescue mission, from the initial distress signal to the final evacuation. She had spoken of Vorn's sacrifice, of the 80 human ships lost, of the Euryales survivors, now building new lives. Throughout, she had maintained the calm dignity expected of an Earth officer, even as the memories threatened to undo her. "The decision before this council is not about Earth's observer status," she finished. "It's about what the Interplanetary Council itself stands for. Are we a community that protects the vulnerable, or merely a bureaucracy that manages paperwork while civilizations die? The humans you call Deathworlders have made our choice. We now await yours." The deliberations lasted 3 days. Passionate arguments echoed through the chamber as species took sides, alliances shifted, and philosophical principles were tested against practical realities. In the end, the vote was closer than anyone had predicted: 34 in favor, 26 opposed. Earth's observer status was officially terminated and replaced with full council membership effective immediately. An unprecedented acceleration. The Malurian chair announced, "Justified by unprecedented circumstances." The actions at Euryales, while procedurally irregular, demonstrated the moral courage and practical capability that this council was founded to foster. As the formal session concluded, Cade found herself approached by an elderly Vaxian, whose ornate exoskeleton marked him as a high-ranking official. "Captain Cade." He greeted her, mandibles clicking in the formal pattern of respect. "I am Elder Tirax. Vorn Elax was my clutch nephew." Cade straightened, struggling to find appropriate words. "Elder Tirax, your nephew's sacrifice saved thousands of lives. He was the finest officer I've ever served with." So your testimony made clear. The elder's compound eyes studied her with unnerving intensity. Vorn's last neural transmission to his family cluster spoke of humans with great admiration. He believed your species represents something the galaxy has long lacked: decisive compassion. The willingness to act when action is needed, regardless of protocol. He embodied that quality himself, Cade replied. Without him, the mission would have failed. Indeed, Tirax extended a ceremonial scroll, encased in transparent chitin. The Vaxian Conclave has authorized me to present you with this Vorn's final signal analysis algorithms, adapted for human computational systems. A gift to strengthen the partnership our species now begin. Cade accepted the scroll with proper gravity. The partnership Vorn helped create will endure, Elder. I swear it. 6 months later, Captain Iris Cade stood on a crystalline beach on New Euralis, a terraformed moon of Saturn, now home to the majority of Euralis refugees. Beside her, Ambassador Mira L. watched as the system's second son, Vaxian scientists, had helped position a controlled fusion reaction in precise orbit, rose above the horizon, casting rainbow light across the Silicon shores. When we sent our distress call, Mira L. said quietly, we had no hope of rescue. We transmitted into the void because we refused to disappear without a trace, without a voice. We never imagined Deathworlders would answer, or that in answering, they would prove themselves the most alive of all. Cade thought of Vorn of the 80 ships of the Council, now transformed by Earth's example. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when to break the rules, she replied. And sometimes the deepest bond between species is forged in the moment one reaches out to save another. As the second sun climbed higher, illuminating the crystal structures of the new Euralis settlements, Cade felt something settle within her, a resonance pattern, as the Euralis would say, finding its harmony at last. The grief remained, but alongside it, now stood purpose, and the certainty that the story begun in crisis would continue in hope. The void had spoken, the Deathworlders had answered, and the galaxy would never be the same.